these people?
Who are these people? We're back. Hi, everybody. It's Indy. We're here for another INN one-on-one with Dissent in Bloom. You know, I had such a good time talking to her last time. We've talked about so many other topics beyond just the election integrity issue and Jack Cobb, which we covered extensively at our last conversation. If you missed that one, please go back and watch that. You can watch that over at innnewsletter.com or on any of the INN channels as well. But today, there's tons of other stuff, specifically with regard to ICE and CCOT and Trump. Welcome back, Dissent in Bloom. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So, I mean, you know, I made a list of all of the articles that you wrote just in July. All right. It's your output has been like remarkable. First of all, I don't know how you do it. And it's on a wide range of topics. And that's even more impressive that you're able to kind of keep a track on 3 or 4 issues while managing life as well. So I wanted to talk about some of the other ones because we focused on one of them, you know, the first time. And specifically with regard to CCOT and the reason why you first got into doing this. So I'm gonna give you the floor again and let you kind of talk about what you've seen, some of the videos and what's happened recently, and I'll kind of show and assist and kind of see what I can do to help along the way. But yeah, welcome back, and people would love to hear all about what you've been up to. So, oh, wait, what's that one? That's me with sharing. There you go. Hi.
Yeah. Hi. No, you're good. That's actually the video I just uploaded last night. So yeah, I of course write on very many different subjects. And we kind of talked about it briefly, but immigration was one of the core issues that I founded my newsletter on. And it actually started unintentionally. I mean, of course I did care, but there was a story that no one had really talked about, and it was like we talked about people going to CCOT, but we didn't actually talk about the people that were sent to CCOT. And I had found, funny enough, on TikTok, a man was sharing about how his best friend Richard was taken to CCOT during a routine immigration appointment. I was like, wow, that's so fucked up, and no one's talking about, like, they're not sending criminals, they're sending innocent people, and they're pretending it's all okay, and no one's actually talking about who they had sent. They just kind of knew it was just 253 Venezuelans. But Richard was the first person that I think I wrote about as far as like immigration stuff goes. And Richard is actually home now with his family. Like, I got confirmation today, which is wonderful. That was the highlight of my day. I'm just like ecstatic. He got to actually talk to his best friend for 30 minutes overnight, and that made my morning. But
That's
he
amazing.
was one of the men that was sent to CCOT. And you can actually see in that picture there, that was from when Matt Gaetz did a tour of CCOT, like it was some kind of human zoo. And he was doing the international symbol for distress or for I need help. And then in that last picture on the right, that's the video footage from when they first came out of CCOT while they were getting on the buses. And he actually says in this video, which I have and I'm planning on uploading, they beat us, they treat us like terrorists and criminals. That's what he was saying in that video.
Oh, lovely. So again, it's giving them their, you know, helping to provide that voice to a ton of people that were not aware of it and giving them the ability to share it. The other video that I wanted to bring that you published, and I don't know where you found it or how you got it, but check this out. This is as they're getting out of CCOT, right? On their way to the airport.
That's actually Richard in that left-hand corner. He's the guy in the blue with the bowl cut. Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah, I think he stands up in the video. Yep, that's him. And that's a religious song about having faith and not giving up. That's a religious hymn.
Wow. That's unreal. Oh, from Telesur. There you go. That's where you got it from. So
I got it from Brian, but Brian got it from Telesur.
Right. So talk about, again, that how you've So you wrote an article back in April, right, about Richard,
Yeah,
right?
and that was kind of so. Yeah, and I guess I should kind of add some context to that too. Before I ever did the stuff with like my newsletter, I work in a program where I humanize people with substance use disorder to the public. And so that was already kind of something I did, was writing so that people saw the person, not just the circumstances. And so I took that, what I do there, and I took it to humanize and help people understand these are people being sent to CCOT. And that's what I did with Richard.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And it's not the only person that you've done that with. Now you're starting to do like stories, right? Where you're doing like those you've done a couple of those little flip booky type of things that were really powerful in helping to tell somebody's story. And
I just,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know that different people learn and interact better with different mediums. So that's why I'm trying different things.
So there was also Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and that's still an ongoing story. I don't even know. Is he even out right now, or is he? I think he was told that they said that he should be out, but they're not letting him out. I'm not even
like
100% sure.
I have to look up. Like, there's so many things that happen with that story because you hear one thing and then it's like, oh, well, actually, it's this. But last I heard that he was released like through the criminal court saying like, we're not holding him, and then ICE pretty much put a detainer on him anyway, and so they have to hold him, but they don't really have to hold him. If like technically, like legally speaking, you don't have to hold someone on an ICE detainer. You can if you want to corroborate with the fucking feds, but you don't have to. So I don't know why he's still in custody.
Yeah, and then you've of course got Mahmoud Khalil that still has several other hearings. Same with Ramesia Ozturk, and those stories are just kind of hidden until the day of their trial. Then people are like, "Oh yeah, that stuff's going on too." Those people are living that every single day. And
I actually have like their court dates on a calendar downstairs so I can like track it. Um, like I have a
amazing.
whole notebook. Like, yeah,
And
but
that
it's
stuff should
heartbreaking.
be published. I mean, so that other people can keep note of it. I'm sure it's somewhere public, but that might be a good idea to put out there as like a calendar of when some of these key hearings and things are upcoming, so people can kind of prepare for it a little bit and not follow the news cycle that then tells you about it, and then people kind of chase it for a day and then it disappears. And that's one of the things I've seen about your Substack that you started a few months ago, is that it's maintaining threads. It's not letting those stories go. And I think that's super important because context. We live in a microwavable, disposable, Reef likes to call it the memory of, everybody's got the memory of flies, right? Like it's crazy, and they just fall back into those same patterns that they're comfortable with and know, even if they're harmful to them, because they are familiar. And
It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind mentality.
Yep. And yeah, I would say so, but and yes, it is, because you have to kind of, it's like exercise. You have to consistently do it, for a few weeks, multiple times a week, for it to become like more like a habit. And that's what I've tried to condition myself to do, on a daily basis, is have that habit when it comes to news consumption. And I'm completely off corporate media, and sometimes to my detriment. I don't know one of the major stories that's breaking because I won't plug into it. It usually makes its way through, between somebody in my circle somewhere. Somebody's going to share it. I don't necessarily have to look for it. It finds me if it's important enough. And that's kind of how I see it. And it's worked so far for a few years.
I'm not going to pretend like I've completely cut off corporate media, because I do watch and read certain, news outlets, but I feel like it's good for me to have multiple like sources of information. Like, of course, I can't just wholeheartedly trust what, you know, MSNBC or CNN or whatever is saying, but it gives me pieces, right? And that's a big thing. I kind of look at it like everyone has their narrative that they're pushing. They'll tell little truths, little bits
Oh,
of
yeah.
truth here and there, and you have to put it together. And that's a big thing of what I do. Like, I'll take little bits and pieces, but I don't fully trust, you know, the billionaire media to give me the full story either. That's kind of what I try to do on my Substack, is give people the full picture.
Yeah, and which is similar to what we do at INN, which is that we read the whole article and let you figure it out for yourself. You know, we'll try to provide what we think, but for the most part, we let you figure it out because you hear exactly what it is. Whereas a lot of the other shows and channels, they kind of summarize the article. They never really show it to you. They omit certain paragraphs that may be important that they didn't think were important, etc. We read the whole thing and go through it all. And, you know, a lot of these people were sent to CCOT either in defiance of a immigration judge or with the help of an immigration judge that was appointed by Trump or elected by Trump. So you did an article about immigration judges. And
yeah.
So let's talk about that for a couple of minutes here. What's going on here about firing all these judges?
So I've actually been following this story for months too. This is one of the first things that I was doing. I actually filed a FOIA request months ago requesting, because they purged, like, in the first week he was fired. Okay, so I guess I should get some context. To try to prevent him from, you know, doing the mass deportation thing, Biden enacted a shit ton of immigration judges at the very end of his term. One of the first things Trump did, he got rid of those judges, which, okay, I guess I kind of expected that, but he didn't stop there. He went through and he's fired a total of 103 immigration judges, which are not the same as like the judicial branch judges. A lot of people don't understand these are different. Immigration is strictly under the executive
Homeland Security.
branch.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. It's strictly under there. So EOIR, all of that is under the executive branch. It's under Trump. He controls all of this. Like, over the immigration, like, the person that they would answer to is the attorney general, and who's the attorney general. So it's not like these people had any kind of benefit to the, you know, thing they can look forward to, things to keep them safe. And so this guy, he's now fired 103 immigration judges, and there was already an immigration crisis going on. Like, we're talking years and years of backlogs. And in doing this, he stopped bonds. So essentially, with that, anyone that's here, and he added this retroactively, or comes here, cannot be out on an immigration bond, which is something that you would stay out on and be on while you fought for your case, whether that be asylum or whatever you were claiming. You would be able to, it's called an alternative to detention. You could stay out. You can be a productive member of society. You don't have to stay in jail while fighting for your, you know, to be an, you know, legal immigrant. But he's got rid of all that. Pretty much, if you're an immigrant and you're not already here under asylum, you're going into a cage. And he's gotten rid of hundreds of judges, which creates this worsening backlog. So now these people will be indefinitely detained unless they self-deport for months and months and months, years even, at a time. And this means groups like Geo Group and Core Civic are going to be making 175 days per person, and they're already overfilling these facilities. That's why they have to make camps like fucking Alligator Auschwitz.
Holy crap.
Sorry.
No. I mean, look, you said that there was a purge on May 29th, right? And that, again, you filed a FOIA request. I think I sent you a thing about, and we actually covered on How Do We Miss That on Sunday, that the average EAC FOIA request, which had the lowest number of days, had an average of a 286-day backlog right now.
I actually got an answer to this one, though. They told me that no records existed. I asked, who's replacing these judges? I want to see, like, do you have any job applications, like anything related to replacing these judges, any kind of internal documents? They told me that my request was strange. And then the next day I got an email saying there's nothing, no documents for this. They told me that nothing existed.
Interesting.
I appeal. I'm waiting on my appeal.
Well, I get, yeah. And then the other thing is that how they've kind of understaffed intentionally the FOIA office in order to make that backlog worse because FOIA is, congressionally mandated. However, the number of people that are in the office that fulfill these requests and they get a ton of them, there's no minimum requirements there. So they're basically being overwhelmed to the point that they can't handle what's being thrown at them. So it's amazing that you got something that fast.
Well, I got something that fast because they don't want me to know. That was something they could just immediately say, nope, you're not getting this. That was what it was. They don't want anyone to know what's going on, and that's why they're understaffing. That's why they're intentionally understaffing the FOIA offices. That's why they're they're creating this huge backlog because they don't want people to know what they're doing.
Huh. Yeah, well, that's crazy still. And I guess I see why they don't want people to know what they're doing. Again, while the courts are being gutted, FOIA requests are disappearing into a black hole, the Trump admin was quietly locking the doors behind every immigrant in ICE custody. So due process is now like officially gone if you're an immigrant. Like how, I guess the laws are totally different.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Like, I don't understand. And a lot of people don't understand. They might be doing the immigrants now, but it's not going to end with the immigrants. Like, read the fucking historical poem. Excuse my language. Read the fucking historical poem. It didn't start with, it doesn't end with the person that they're targeting. It doesn't end with the group that they're targeting. It ends with authoritarianism.
Well,
they might come for the immigrants today, the journalists tomorrow, anyone that dissents, like it. Yeah.
Well, and then anywhere they want to systematically destroy, what they're going to do is they're going to attack, sadly, the healthcare system. And that's what we've seen now in Gaza. That's what we started to see in Lebanon. In Syria now, there's starting to be a breakdown, and they start with the infrastructure. They start by bulldozing the roads and bombing the roads and making it like really difficult to get around. And then they go after the healthcare workers, and it's wow. And we haven't even gotten there yet. What?
I said, don't like that.
No. I figured as a nurse you wouldn't. But yeah, where are they putting these people? So that is the other part of this whole thing. Chrome Detention Center. And then this is, again, Alligator Auschwitz, which you've now written about quite a bit. All right. And then we've also got some of these other ones. Now there's dozens of these being built all over the country. And this new bill apparently cuts out a provision to build them all over the country and cuts out special money exactly and explicitly for this use only.
You should read not only this bill, you should read the initial executive orders that he placed in his first day. I write about it in that immigration judge thing. Like, they're talking like making DNA databases, which we kind of already knew about with like Immigration OS. Like, they're working with Palantir closely to like essentially create a database of immigrants, almost like marking them. It's disgusting. It's like, read everything that they're planning on doing in those executive orders and you'll be disgusted.
Well, the private prison industrial complex. All right. Even before Trump and Miller, this is wow. I mean, this scares the hell. This is just Geo Group, right? Over 100 facilities nationwide.
Yeah, then that's their data. That's from their website. That's from the Geo Group website. Like, they're proud of it.
Well, they're publicly traded, I believe, right?
I'm not sure. I've never looked into that part, but
pretty sure they're a publicly traded company. So you can look up all their financials and everything. I
do know that they were one of the biggest donors for the Trump campaign because they knew it was coming. They knew it would line their pockets.
Well, they were for the first Trump campaign as well. And he certainly rewarded them for that.
I mean, he ran his first campaign on hating immigrants too. Like, he's a fucking asshole.
Oh. Yeah, there's
again, it's not French.
I don't think you're going to get too much argument here. I don't see him as being very much different from any of the others. He's just more flagrant about it. But I think they're all just criminal monsters that either choose to look the other way, while people like the Geo Group and, the Stephen Millers of the world and the architects of all of this, between the Peter Thiels and the Leonard Leos and all the other people that you're writing about, he's just like the guy who introduces all of this and kind of distracts and is the sideshow while that's all kind of happening in the background and most people aren't paying attention to it. And that's why you do
That's
what
why
you
I tried
do.
right on it. Yeah.
Right.
That's why I tried right on it, because he's a fucking asshole. But he's just the asshole that everyone's watching rather than everything else that's going on.
I mean, seriously, this guy is a WWE Hall of Famer, a 10-time Emmy winner. He's an actor. That's the thing he's been almost most successful at, that and bilking banks out of hundreds of millions of dollars. Failed casinos, failed Trump steaks, Trump water, the Trump airlines, trying to buy football teams.
And he still does the stuff in his presidency with like gold cards and Trump phones and
well, that and those are kind of get rich quick little successful ventures that the people who love him, they buy into. The gold shoes. Remember the Trump sneakers, the golden sneakers? And then
that's ugly.
Now, I don't know how much you've looked into the crypto thing that they pulled.
Oh my gosh, I've kind of looked into it. There's a website that I follow called Sludge, I believe, that they talk about it a lot.
Yes.
But I haven't gotten to read articles in depth.
I'm a paid subscriber to Sludge. I've actually brought several of their articles on the show on How Do We Miss That, as well as
I'm also a paid subscriber. I just haven't read enough.
Right. My friend, and I have those articles linked, I believe, on the Indie News Now site, too. So they link directly from there. But Golden Monarch has also been on this. There's a few other people. Michelle Decryptodamus is over on Substack, and Michael Ginsberg, who is in Australia. They have all kind of been talking about the grift that's going on here and the criminal level activity that's happened within the Trump family, within members of the Trump administration, where they're dropping legislation and dropping criminal investigations into, crypto companies that were under investigation for wrongdoing. They basically made it legal to do meme coins because that was a big question, whether it had value and what it was going to do. And they basically said, well, yeah, I guess it's okay. Just so happens that Trump introduced a meme coin that made him a couple of $1 billion, like the day before he was inaugurated. That was at the crypto ball. I don't know if you remember that, but he introduced the $ Trump coin.
I do remember that. I remember, but it was just like one of the many things in a mess of chaos that came with his presidency.
Yeah, I mean, and that I think has been two other things. Is that number one, they thrive and like plan on a multi-pronged attack from so many different angles that it's almost impossible for anybody to track and follow and keep up with all of it. I think that's by design.
What about it? Like it's a concept. I can't remember the name of it, but it's essentially where they flood you with too much bad information to where you can't like cognitively keep up with everything. It's just like, because mentally, like humans only have so much capacity for bad news, and there's so much happening at once. It's overwhelming.
Well, from Iraq War, they called it shock and awe.
It may have been. That may be what they've called it, but it's a psychological phenomenon. I had read about it in one of the books I've read, and then people were talking about it when he first came in. Like, expect he's going to intentionally overwhelm you guys so that you're so overwhelmed you just don't want to do anything. But don't let that be pretty much. It's a lot, and if you have to take a day to self-care, that's fine. But you can't just look away because it's too much.
Right. And then the other thing is that their entire goal on a daily basis, and you have to really look at, they see every day as like a competition, and they want to win the news cycle. They want to be the thing that they want to control the narrative of what's being talked about, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. It's something that they then orchestrate and control from their own side, whether that is going on attack, whether that is funding something, whether that is calling somebody out because of this, whether that is playing the victim and acting as if you're the one being attacked. We see all of these tactics, but the goal every single day, and that's why it's so exhausting. This guy has got a stamina that I have not seen in very many people. All right. And that is one of the reasons, his tenacity and the stamina that he had. I'll give him credit for one thing. He's consistently a crazy raving asshole on a daily basis. Right? Like,
yes, that's what amphetamines will do, right? No, I don't know if he's on amphetamines. It just kind of seems like it because he's up at 3 a.m., posting shit. But
it's remarkable. The guy's close to 80 years old. He's been like this for 20 years, 25 years. I mean, how long really? I mean, he's gone off the deep end, right? Basically since Obama was elected. I mean, nobody thought of him, right?
Today he came out on the news and called Obama treasonous, like that. He uploaded an AI video of Obama being arrested in the Oval Office.
I saw that video. Steve played that on AM Wake Up yesterday. And first of all, what AI program even allowed that to happen? Like, it was.
Hey, they're deregulating it, and there's quite a bit you can do online with AI. I've realized. I went to one that I did not know made adult content one time, and oh God.
Oh no, it looked, but no, that I saw that video. It looked accurate as fuck, first of all. But look, Obama, and now they're trying to reverse Russiagate, or quote unquote Obama, and saying that it was Obama that was responsible for all of Russiagate. I know it was more the Clinton campaign that was responsible for that, because they introduced a lot of those elements, and they bought the Steele dossier, and then they had Comey do the thing before the election with it. So many different things happened, but that's not really what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk more about the articles.
Sorry, I know we always do this. We go off on tangents because we see like all these crazy things. That's my fault.
and it's all, but the thing is that it's all interconnected. Okay. And again, you get back to 2016, were the machines rigged? No, they weren't. No, people hated Hillary really that much. But in 2004, we are almost certain guaranteed that Bush really didn't win Ohio in 2004, that Karl Rove had the servers shut, that there was a power outage, and he redirected the data to a different server via smart tech or and it was a private thing that should never have been handling that.
There's tons. If you look back, you can actually find election fraud dating back to like the 1990s, early 2000s. Like, if anyone's looked into the work like Beth Harris, like, this isn't a new concept, and it comes from both sides.
It certainly does. But the only time that any side wants to look at it is the time that they lose, which is the time that, they're not really considered, because now they have bias. Because when you were winning, you didn't care to look at it. But now that you're losing, now it's become an issue. And now you sound partisan, and the other side's not going to listen to you. But there are principled people that have been doing this kind of work through both sets of administrations, Republican and Democrat, that are nonpartisan, that just want to see this stuff fixed. And they're getting drowned out by private corporate interests. And maybe, now you haven't proven this yet, but the proximity is alarming. The military-industrial complex and defense intelligence complex scares the hell out of me.
Yeah, because it really makes me think, like, and of course, I'm not saying for sure that it's one thing or the other, but you see how much the GOP gives to defense contractors, and it continues to grow every year. We're at like 890 billion. So it almost seems like whoever's going to benefit them the most is who gets picked, if that makes sense.
Sort of, except that Biden ramped up the budget for the military every single year that he was president, and it was the record military budget.
Who won in 2020? That's I'm not saying it's one or the other, but
right. But even under Obama, we had a massive ramp up in military budget. I think we went from 200 billion to 600 billion, 2 wars to 7 under Obama. Again, I voted for Obama twice, and I have massive buyer's remorse. I will say, for a lot of reasons.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, it could be a Democratic or it could be Republican. Whoever is, like, the GOP, yes, that's what I think is happening now. But it could be either one, just whoever. It doesn't matter the party. Whoever is going to ramp up their money that they get is going to get, to be the choice. It could be Biden. It could be Obama. It could be a Democrat, Republican. It doesn't matter. It's just whoever is benefiting their interests. That's kind of where I was going.
And getting back to the crypto industry, $119 million this past campaign cycle went to politicians. They were the number one funder of U.S. campaigns in the 2024 cycle. They bought off a large portion of them and AIPAC, over $100 million each. Then you had Elon Musk with his $250 million and the PAC there. And you had Miriam Adelson. He also gave $250 million there. He raised, I think, still over $1 billion or $900 million, somewhere close to $1 billion. And that's not even counting the PR value that he got out of the crypto stuff and the Trump coin and all the other stuff that he was pulling while he was doing that, alongside the free media that he gets from all the corporate media. They elected him effectively. That plus the Democrats not, adhering to democracy in 2024, that also didn't really help their cause very much. Like anointing their candidate and not holding anyone to a primary and ramming a convention through that, that they had a coup d'etat and nobody wants to talk about that. There was a fucking coup d'etat for that campaign, for that nomination. Biden was the guy. Everybody voted for Biden. They all knew what he was. It was only then, right at the last minute, when nobody could do anything about it, that they decide to pull a switcheroo.
I'm not saying that that's not why they did it, but I do know, like, around that time, there was a lot of concerns about his health and, like, him aging and being unable to do it or something. I don't like it, the way that it looked, and it may have been all orchestrated, but it seemed like the media kind of made him out to be really sickly right before they did that switch. And that's kind of like, did they just set the stage for that, or is that actually why it happened?
No, they set the stage. He was no more sickly than he was for the previous 3 years. All right. They hit him in the basement. They did a lot of the auto pen stuff with Anita Dunn. I really do believe that, there were clearly body double Bidens that were wearing like the masks at times. You could see there were different facial colors and tones, and sometimes that's lighting or whatever, but there was like totally different Bidens. I mean, and there are articles that detail all of this stuff. It's crazy. But the Secret Service does have the ability to do. Oh, I'll send you some links on that. It's wild. And then there were, every time he's on TV, he's lost. How many times did he walk into a crowd of turn around and walk off the stage and into nothing, or go to shake?
I do that too. No.
Go to shake nobody's hand. Yeah, but he's supposed to be the president. You're not supposed to do that. Like, it was clear for a long time that he was not well, and they just basically pushed him through. If you knew he wasn't well, have a primary. Well, that's not really the whole thing that I wanted to talk to you about. It was more about like this thing with Alligator Auschwitz and the kid and the janitor. I think we talked about it a little bit last time.
Oh yeah, I think this is right where we actually ended last time, was like shortly after you showed bits of this video.
Right. So I wanted to get to, again, your take on this guy where you don't think he's a good guy. What's happened with him since? Has anybody continued to give him money? Has anybody looked at his stuff?
I honestly don't know. I can look it up real quick, actually.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear if you know anything more about him, or if he's just kind of disappeared and these videos are kind of part of the memory hole that they're trying to disappear from everybody's, from everybody's brains. Let me go back. Here we go.
He's still on.
Okay.
He's still on. He's posts sub to see info that I cannot post. Help stand indicator. His name has been muffled. Of course he does.
Well.
There's more videos.
I hear that.
Yeah, I took a bite just to see if it was decent. That shit is pure ass.
That's my video. What am I doing? That's this video. I'm like, why am I hearing that so loud?
No, I'm on.
Okay, so he's been posting more videos about.
Well, this one's from back in early July, but it's just like the employee area.
Okay. Right.
So,
so
I guess he's been posting, but he's telling people, like, if you give me more money, I'll give you more information, which, I wouldn't even be mad at that because I get it. Like, it's scary out here and you got to protect yourself and have that funding to protect yourself. But this isn't what he started his platform as. He started his platform as like trying to use him working there as a get rich quick scheme. And this is something this guy's been doing for years. I went back through social media before he deleted everything, and he's been trying like different things to make money off of different things for many, 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 many years. So this is just the latest, but it's just that he does have that footage. And so now he has something that he can use to his benefit. I don't think he's a good guy at all.
Well, and that sucks. I mean, I get it. And he needs to leverage it because they're going to come after him, which has been my kind of feeling too. He said he didn't have to sign anything to work there, but they were just going to allow.
Yeah, he said he didn't sign shit.
And they didn't. But no other person. You said a couple other people have also put videos up from working there, like.
Yeah, just I think one girl uploaded a video of her like driving past the employee like tent things, but people have kind of formed the same opinion of me on TikTok. Like, you didn't give a fuck when you took a job at a concentration camp, but now you want us to feel bad for you. Like,
well, I don't know if they necessarily understood quite the severity of what it was going to end up becoming. I mean, it looks like one thing, but hey, are they done building it yet? I don't like. There's ways to justify that to yourself and write it off. That look,
I mean, there's a way to justify anything. I mean, I'm sure, like, I could go and work for fucking Trump and try to find some justification for it, but at the end of the day, like, you kind of knew what it was. Like, you look at what they've been doing, and like, it doesn't take a genius to have context.
Once you hear people have been freezing in there, and that they're getting this thin blanket. And a tiny pillow and a cold mattress.
Apparently now they don't have air. After that all happened, one of the congressmen went and visited, and they said that there was no air, so they took it away. Now it's just hot.
There's no air conditioning in these tents?
Not anymore. They took it away. Like, they made it freezing to where they couldn't get out of bed, and then when it came out, like, hey, they're freezing the people out, they just took the air away, kind of like, oh, you want to complain about it? Well, now you get nothing. That was pretty much like what I got from it.
Stifling, too. Now, this is the other thing that's crazy. No fire alarms, no fire suppression. How do they pass a building code? Do they need to pass a building code?
So it's not technically a building, so I don't know.
Well, it's a structure that's built on land in the state of Florida, in the county of what, and the town of what. They have some kind of jurisdiction.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'd have to look more into the actual laws of Florida, but it's Florida, so I don't have high hopes. But yeah, I'm not sure.
That potentially could be something, a way to have this thing shut down, because it literally is a risk. Like you said, if a fire were to break out, there's no way for the for the guys to get out, they're basically all gonna die.
Yeah, they're locked in cages that are like padlocked and yeah.
And like the tents themselves are, I'm guessing, pretty thick walled. Like you can't just cut through them or climb under them. Like
plus the way that they're structured, like if you look inside, like at the footage and the pictures, they're gates. They're like gated sections. They're very much like what they used to do to kids back in the first administration, but they're gated sections inside the tent. So like they're nowhere near like the walls. So like they couldn't even try to get out of those if they wanted.
Yeah, the walls are like protected by a whole other set of fences, I'm guessing. That,
yeah,
like in order to walk the perimeter, you've got to go through a gate and then be able to walk around the edge, be able to, because they have to be able to get to it somehow to service it, maintain it, whatever it is. Somebody's got to be able to get to it, but not the prisoners, would be my guess. Which is why you're seeing like these, like this pole right there. Jesus. Like that place is just awful. And I heard that Americans have made it in there. I've heard that minors have been put in there already. And the worst.
And it's actually in the blueprints for it to hold minors. Like it's in the actual blueprint, like the original information that they had submitted for there to be minors in there. So that doesn't surprise me. But I mean, then again, if you think back, like fucking Christine months ago said that she wouldn't say explicitly they wouldn't send minors to Guantanamo. So this being minors there does not surprise me.
24/7 light, which is like another form of physical torture.
Mm-hmm.
No music, no videos, no televisions. They don't talk. Like that again is another form of psychological torture, of like silence. It's one meal a day, maybe, or 2 meals, maybe, one for sure, right? That's what you said?
That's what he said in his live, yeah.
Okay. Limited food, controlled water. This sounds a lot like Starvation Plus, which is the diet that Israel puts the people of Gaza on. In a way. It's a way to malnourish them. It's a way to weaken them. It's a way to discourage them from wanting to stay, obviously, because at some point, weeks later, they then put them in front of a judge and say, you want to self-deport or you want to go back in a hole?
And that's what I think they're doing. They're intentionally mistreating them so that they'll go to, a place where they were obviously leaving because their life was either threatened or they weren't safe or there just wasn't enough for them to live. And it's like be abused or go back and have nothing and die. They're put in a lose-lose situation.
And then we got the Miami Herald report. I don't know if you I don't know if you were watching when I read that article, or you saw it yourself, with the wives of the spouses and the families of the people who were in there, that they heard from their relative, but that they have no idea how to contact them and that they don't know what to do next. And they can't even talk to their lawyers. Like, I don't think that Americans understand what's happening here.
And that's one of the big things. And I actually think I talk about that, if not in this, in one of my other articles. That guy pretty much affirmed it. Like the only people that are allowed in and out are the people that work there. And the people that work there, they have to come in for whatever amount of shifts they have that week. I mean, for the first month, I think they had to work the whole month. But then they have to stay the whole week and then they can go out. But that's the only people that are allowed in and out. No, like he said, there's no attorneys, no anyone that's allowed in.
So what are they, like, taken to another area to make a phone call? I'm guessing.
I think there's an area in the camp where they can call out, but there's nowhere, like, no set connection center. There's probably like payphones or something along those lines. He didn't go into that, but that's just kind of what I would assume. There's
got to be an office that has PCs and internet and everything else somewhere on the grounds, I'm assuming. This is, again, craziness. This is what the tents look like. So you can see even they have cages as like roofs. and total fencing, very difficult to get through this chain link stuff. And then of course it's heavily guarded on top of it. How many guards are there working at this facility?
I don't think he actually went into that, but he said that it's constantly guarded. He didn't say there's a lot. Like, he didn't say specifically a number, but you can even see, like, in some of the videos of his, like, just as he's going to go to the restroom, like the employee restroom, which is totally different than what the detainees have to use. But as he's going to the employee restroom, you can see 2 or 3 sets of guards just along that path.
Wow. Oh, so, and we can hope for more of this, apparently, because as you wrote back on July 3rd, you know, Trump's big, beautiful bill, not just Trump's, but the Republican Party and the Heritage Foundation's wish list that became the big, beautiful bill, which apparently Thomas Massie basically said was the Build Back Better with a different name slightly.
It just sounds like a porn name. Big Beautiful is a thing you hear in porn, big, beautiful women. So it kind of sounds like some fucking sicko made the name of the bill.
Well, some, you know, I've got other people that have literally just written them in like the B's in lowercase, and then it kind of looks like a 666 in a way, you know, like, there's that too. There's a lot of symbology involved in this. And we've been talking about, right. And then we've been talking about how they've been for decades naming things draconian and the exact opposite of what they actually are, like the CARES Act, for example.
Oh my gosh, that makes me think of 1984. Oh, like the Ministry of Truth, right?
Right. If you start thinking about like how they name these things, the Reclaiming Our Whatever Act usually to destroy something.
I mean, yeah, that's what all of his executive orders have been. Like, essentially, it'll say something that sounds like wholesome and like he's doing something good, but if you read it, it's not. It's not at all. I'm
going to restore thing to America. Yeah, by excluding everyone that comes here.
Which is so crazy because America's literally founded on immigrants. Like Ellis Island, like the fucking Ellis Island and like the Statue of Liberty, like we literally were a country built by immigrants. Like America as a whole was founded because we wanted to break away from Britain. And part of our big thing when we first started was we wanted to welcome immigrants and become like this beautiful country that was supposed to be like welcoming to other people because we kind of knew what it was like to be like the little guy. And to see the change we've made just throughout centuries is just astounding me.
Well, it's unfettered capitalism that really does that. And we've allowed that to buy off both major parties. And in turn, the capitalists have decided that they don't want to allow any more than those two parties. So they've rigged the entire system to maintain those two parties' dominance. Okay.
That's Citizens United. Yeah. I'm actually going to write an article on Citizens United at some point.
Great. I remember it passing and not, I remember being upset about it, but I don't think that people quite realized what it meant. It also, and at some point, AIPAC decided do you know that they had never donated $1 to a congressional campaign before 2020? And then they just decided that they were going to, now they funded them through other campaigns, but direct donations, no. And then they just decided to turn the spigot on.
I mean, because look what they started to do. That actually makes sense with the timelines. So,
right. Well, 2021, but and again, it didn't start in 2021. It didn't start October 7th. They had done this for more than one cycle. And they've kind of been planning on a lot of this, I feel like, in a way. It was orchestrated. But I also wanted to mention in this bill that you went through that there are a lot of punitive things that are happening for people that are seeking asylum that end up in the court system. All right. And that all of these additional fees end up being placed on people that can't really afford them. And it puts them into another level of debt that then allows them to be put back into the system. right?
Mm-hmm.
So $50 to $150 just to apply for asylum. Most people come here with the clothes on their backs and no money.
And that's one of the big issues. A lot of them don't speak English and they can't even afford immigration lawyers, let alone all these ridiculous fees.
All right. $400 to $800 for a parole request. So they've already put you into an ICE facility. Now you're requesting to get out on parole while you have a hearing, right? That's basically why they're giving that to you, even though you're not a criminal. Charging $1,000 for a continuance in an immigration court. So even if it's beyond your control and the other attorney can't show up because they're in another court and there's a continuance issued by the judge, $1,000. All right. Renew employment authorization. That's a new thing, and I'm guessing that the employer will not pay in most cases, especially when it comes to laborers. You know, maybe when it comes to white collar workers.
It was very ambiguous on what the fee would be. Like they left a lot of ambiguity in that bill for a reason. So
intentionally, a penalty fee for sponsors of unaccompanied minors who miss court. There's got to be some kind of circumstances that they allow for, but okay. EOIR court fees, what are those?
EOIR is essentially the immigration court. So any kind of court fees with immigration.
So even more, and on top of all of that, just going to court at all gets increased because you'd already had to pay a court fee. A CBP apprehension fee for those deemed inadmissible. Wait a minute. So
they're charging you to kick you, yes.
They're charging you to kick you out.
Yeah.
A visa integrity fee. What does that even mean?
I don't know. I assume it's in the same kind of language as people that charge, fees for using their platforms. It's just them pickling and diming people that can't afford to be here. That's all it is. They're just trying to make it as hard as possible for people who don't want to be here. And it's disgusting. It's just disgusting. That's the only thing I could think of to describe what's happening is disgusting.
Like this one is the one that really worries me right here is section 70106 funds surveillance technology upgrades, including facial recognition, biometric databases, and automated license plate readers. And we know that they've already made a deal with FedEx. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they've made a fucking deal with Palantir, Immigration OS, and it's in the first fucking executive orders. Like they're literally creating a goddamn database of immigrants, and it's not just immigrants.
It's not just immigrants.
Technically, yeah.
It's everybody, and a lot of the surveillance stuff in the walls, and again, Whitney Webb and Derek Brose and Ryan Christian and Steve Poik and all these people have been saying it wasn't to keep them out. In the end, it's going to be used to keep us in because they want to keep us into 15-minute cities. And
oh my gosh, just months ago, there were people that were trying to visit Canada, and they were actually stopped by immigration agents, like U.S. immigration agents, before they even hit the Canadian border, asking why they were leaving the country.
Yep,
that's something new.
Yep. And then you've got the people who come here, they detain the girls from Hawaii and put them into one of the camps because they didn't have their stay fully booked. They were backpackers. I was a backpacker. I did not have an itinerary booked out for months on end. I basically went from place to place wherever the wind blew. You can't do that now. It literally got them deported to Japan. German girls.
Okay. Can I get deported to Japan, please? No.
And then I mean, there have been so many stories, and then how many are inside Chrome Detention Center? Where there's supposed to be a limit of how many people are supposed to be in a cage. There shouldn't be any. It should be 0, by the way. But
don't know the number by heart, but I do know that it's way more than what it's supposed to be. You would have to look into my articles because there's so many numbers I have to keep track of, but they're all overfilling these places. Like these people come out and they've come out, and there were people that were actually in Chrome that came out after they were deported back to their home country and testified. Like these people were like wall to wall, like in this place. Like there was no room to do anything. Like it was straight up abuse. God, I have the video somewhere.
There was a cell phone video.
Yeah.
I showed on the show a couple of months ago from that. But that was just one. But yeah. Exactly. That was just one person in one facility at one time. And there were the U.S. citizens in Arizona and New Mexico that were getting picked up and interrogated and not let go. And when he said, "I'm a citizen," they didn't believe him. It's like, wow.
This is, of course, someone else's account, but I've actually heard it's been telling people like it doesn't matter when someone tells them they're a citizen. Like I can't say that's like 100% true or not because I haven't seen it firsthand, but there are reports that ICE is straight up telling people it doesn't matter.
Yeah, once your name's on a list, that's it. Yeah, ICE now regularly operates with face masks and no name tags. And you saw that the guy for Nassau County signed a thing that the cops can now cover their faces while making arrests. Like that was a law before. They overrode that. Oh, I didn't realize that was possible.
Them the right to do whatever they want and say like, and that also creates this like blind spot where any sicko with, the worst intentions can pretend they're a police officer with their face covered. Like, I mean, we just saw that guy that dressed up as a cop and killed some Congress people. Like,
yeah, that's a whole other crazy story. Initially, people thought people thought he was like a Walls guy and he was a Trump support. Like, there's a whole weird story behind all of that. I haven't really dug into his motives and where that's gone. Yeah.
I followed that case. I wrote an article on it actually, about who he was. I went and I found his business. I went into all of his records. I'm a stalker. Okay. I'm a professional stalker.
Don't tell people that.
I can find anyone on anything, I swear. Like, but I found out his whole background. I found, he is very much an alt-right believer. He's an anti-abortion activist, and that was his big thing. Was he was going after anyone that he thought supported abortion. But yes, very much MAGA, very much not like Tim Walz appointed him to some workforce board, but he did not fuck with Walz. And Walz actually replaced him a few years back with someone different, and that probably didn't help any either.
Yeah. Crazy. And then you've got the ICE raids that have been happening. So you've got increased funding for ICE. You've got increased funding for CBP. By the way, I don't know if you've been following Jen Budd. She's a whistleblowing former CBP agent that's now been coming out and trying to expose all the stuff and all the rot behind the scenes. She's great. Down in the San Diego area.
But I don't want to say for sure. I'd have to look and see, but I think so. That name sounds familiar.
2 Ds, Jen Budd, Budd. She's excellent. So she's been talking a lot about some of this stuff and how it is inherent in the culture and how there is a anti-Latino, kind of bias in there for sure. And that, the punishment is the point. And that they actually do enjoy some of that monstrous stuff.
This was a story that came out that as punishment to reprimand someone that's in ICE custody, they made them stand outside in the heat and let mosquitoes bite the shit out of them for like 2 hours or something like that. Like I haven't read the full story, but I just heard about it shortly before we got on here.
Oh. Well, I remember hearing that they basically were either removing or punishing people that were trying to give the detainees anything extra whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I wrote about.
Yeah. So Jaime Alanis, what happened here?
So ICE/DHS and oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I'm so sorry. And pretty much the police in California had cooperated together to serve a bullshit criminal warrant because technically ICE cannot come into a property or go into a place to detain someone that's like locked. Like they can't just walk in your house and take you, right? Like their administrative warrant doesn't give them that power. That's all it is an administrative warrant. But what they had done here was they had gotten a bullshit criminal warrant accusing them of, I think it was a human trafficking or something like that, which by the way, no one's been charged. Like they said this was happening here, but no one's been charged for any of that. The only thing that's been placed are ICE detainers, but ICE cooperated with the police to get a criminal warrant so that they could have legal access to this place in which these people were scared to death because it was a full-on paramilitary-style raid with helicopters, rubber bullets, tear gas. Like it was terrifying. So these people ran for their lives. And in doing so, one of these gentlemen climbed up to the top of one of the structures to try to, protect himself. He was terrified and he fell 30 feet and started dying. He was internally bleeding. He had severe damage to his brain because of the internal bleeding and the lack of blood flow. He lived for a little bit after on a ventilator, but he died here in the United States, and his family couldn't even come and see him because where they were and with everything going on, it wasn't possible. So the last time that they saw him was a couple years ago, and now they get to see him again in a box.
And so he's Mexican. And notice that the business owners of Glass House Farms also not charged, not arrested.
Nope, not charged or arrested.
They were responsible for putting the people there, from what it seems like. But
yeah, like they knew that they were hiring people that were undocumented, but of course the people that are utilizing immigrant labor will never get in trouble. It's only the immigrants who are performing pretty much very cheap labor for Americans that face the consequences. And unfortunately for this gentleman, that consequence was the ultimate one.
Every single time. Climbed onto the roof of the greenhouse. I don't know what he thought he was going to do on the roof, personally, but...
I mean, he was probably trying to hide. Like, I mean, that's kind of human nature, right? Get to high ground if there's something going on underneath you.
But,
fight or flight is a scary thing. You do things that don't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about climbing on one of the roofs of these up there?
It may not been one of those. Those are just one of the greenhouses, but
right. But that looks pretty friggin' tall right there. Like
it could have been.
It but there's nowhere to hide. Is my point. Like, but I get it. Like when you're panicked, people do weird shit when they're panicked. All right, but yeah, he again put in a box, sent that. Oh, God, that was what he looked like in the hospital. All right.
Yeah, his family had uploaded those photos to the GoFundMe, but beautifully. And this gave me one bit of hope in the world as people raised, like, I think, oh God, it was $360,000 for his family. So that was something I thought was beautiful.
That's great. Okay. So at least there was that, but, no. And is there any... like apology from Homeland Security? Has there been any statement put out whatsoever?
The only thing they said is was not in our custody, so it's not our fault. That's what they said.
Oh, the raid had nothing to do with the reason why he ended up dying.
They pretty much said because legally we didn't have custody of him, our hands are clean. That's their justification.
Wow. So this is actually from the raid itself.
So that's actually from the protests, because like right after it happened, there were protests. Like people went up there to find out what the hell's going on, and within the hours there was protests, and that's a shot from the police force lining up against the protesters.
Wow. They brought water and food. They live streamed arrests. They shielded others from rubber bullets. Yeah. And again, there's no accountability, like you said. The people who planned it should be held accountable. The agents who carried it out the officials who call it law enforcement, and the politicians that enable and empower all of this crap also need to be held accountable.
They all need to be held accountable. What is happening is disgusting. It's just disgusting. All of them need to be held accountable.
And a lot of it comes back at times to not just the machines. I mean, the machines are certainly part of the process, but back up even further and you get the selection process. How are the candidates even chosen in a lot of cases to run for office under those parties? Usually it's about
very difficult.
Fundraising.
I actually have worked with someone on a political campaign before, and the way it was explained to me is there's like, I guess, almost like finalists, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't make sense, but it does. There's pretty much layers of people that can be selected, and they choose their favorite person from these different options. Yep. And that's shitty because it really limits who can. You can only pretty much get picked and supported by either the Democratic or the Republican Party if you follow only what they want. Like, if you are a free spirit at all, they're going to try to single you out. They're going to try to make sure that you're fitting their narrative and their narrative only. They are very much in control of what is said and done. And it sucks because in America, people usually only vote one or the other. So it really limits on who can get in office. It's like you either play ball or you get nothing, which is what they did with Bernie. Like, they fucked Bernie over several times. But that's America.
In several ways, you know, and Bernie also fucked himself because he didn't fight when they started to. And there's a lot of speculation and reasons as to why, you know.
Could have been scared or, worried about fracturing the party. Like, because I think a lot of his supporters were leftists. And with him, if he would have spoken out, that would have caused a lot more fractures in the party. But even not speaking out, people saw what had happened. So he didn't need to say anything. The party was already fractured at that point.
Right. But he could have led a move. Again, he wasn't going to be the leader. He spent 25 years in the House and Senate playing ball with the Clintons and with the Democratic Party and caucusing with them. And he wasn't going to step outside the duopoly. He was really a member of the club. What we have needed is somebody really outside that club. You know, the closest that we really came to it in my lifetime was Ralph Nader, who kind of was respected by them, feared by them, but also had the respect and admiration of the American public as somebody that held both sides accountable. And I don't know if there's another figure that's ever going to be allowed with corporate media to rise like that again. They smeared the hell out of Ralph both before and after he ran for president. I believe
that's what independent media sources like ours are kind of here for. The more that we grow,
well, we are,
as a
but they still control the gateways. They control the ISPs. They control the platforms and who gets elevated and who gets seen in the algorithms to a point. They're controlling quite a bit. What's that?
That's kind of what you have to learn how to game the algorithm. Like, okay, I know I sound like a fucking cringe Gen Z or whatever, but you can talk about one subject on social media, but in like your actual text of the thing, things like that, you kind of change it up so that the algorithm doesn't actually pick up what you're talking about. And that's a good way to get people engaged. I've realized that, like, I've gotten a lot of engagement because to TikTok, it looks like I'm talking about Sabrina Carpenter, but I'm not. I'm actually talking about voting machines, if that makes sense.
Nah, well, I mean, what are you putting, like the hashtag Sabrina Carpenter in the body of your text?
So it's complicated. Yes, but no. So I record it initially, and then like my actual captions and stuff will be put on another app, and then I upload it after the fact to TikTok, which I don't use captions. And then I kind of just add text in, like even if it's a small hashtag that's like so small no one can see it like on the screen, but that kind of changes it up on the algorithm. It's just kind of about gaming the algorithm, but that's only part of it, and it sucks that we even have to do that. That's kind of important point.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting.
Anyway, doesn't matter. But yeah, there's ways around it. You just gotta kind of learn the system so you can fuck the system, if that makes sense.
Well, fuck the system is something we definitely need to start doing, because you've got guys like this that are controlling the system. Leonard Leo and Peter Thiel, which you also wrote about, how they handed Trump to the Heritage Foundation.
Yeah.
And that the Heritage Foundation, Obamacare was a Heritage Foundation plan that was then adopted and sold by the Democrats, of all things, which the Republicans then turned around and screamed about, which is hilarious. This was Romney Care in Massachusetts. It was incredibly effective. But when they tried to decide that they were going to deploy it nationwide, everybody cried. They expanded Medicaid to certain states, but half the states, the ones that were run by Republicans, decided not to opt in and create their own Medicaid exchange or their Obamacare exchange, which subsidized the healthcare costs of all those people who live there. So they've been suffering through an increase of costs for a while. I read somewhere recently that 90 days from now, all the Obamacare subsidies are going to expire, and now everybody's costs are going to go back up. Some people as high as 75% in states that had Obamacare subsidies. And they don't even know it yet.
They're going to learn.
Yeah, they're going to find out. So Leonard Leo, I had heard about Leonard Leo several years ago. And then he was already pretty influential with the Federalist Society and helping to pick judges. He was influential in Trump's first term in deciding which Federalist Society approved judges would be nominated for Supreme Court terms, which is beyond incredible. Like, this guy really picked who our Supreme Court justices were. It wasn't Trump. It wasn't Congress. It was Leonard Leo. He handpicked these people, one single-handedly. And then some rich Republican asshole, billionaire, left that guy when they died $1.6 billion to invest in whatever they saw fit to influence our judicial system moving forward.
Which is dark money.
In a lot of cases, but in some cases, it's light money. It's setting up foundations and think tanks and funding heritage.
Like I call him the pipe in the pipeline, because people give him the money and then he puts it to these other things. So, but yes, he's part of the pipeline of shitty people using money for shitty things.
Well, now he has his own coffers, though, on top of everybody else's money. So he's a conduit that also has a massive well of his own. And then you've got, again, friendship with Clarence Thomas. I think you said 6 or 7 of the 9 judges on the Supreme Court right now, other than the ones that were appointed by Democrats, effectively are Heritage Foundation, Federal Society members.
Yeah, they're either he didn't directly place Clarence Thomas or anyone, I think, during Bush, but he played a role in them being placed. Like, he supported their placement. And then there were 3 that he placed on his own, which are the Trump picks.
Right. Which is Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh and Merrick Garland. Right? Not Merrick Garland. Not Merrick Garland. Who's the third one?
Like, that doesn't sound right. Fuck is their name? Oh my gosh, I can't remember.
Neil Gorsuch. Gorsuch is the third one.
I was like, the white dude.
No, you're right. The old crusty white dude. Who literally, like, I remember he voted, or maybe it was Garland. One of them voted for a trucker to have to die in his truck to be able, rather than go get a hotel room because it was too cold and the heat was broken. There was some kind of a case, and he voted against the truck driver who had died, which was crazy. All right.
Gross.
But Leonard Leo's been around for decades, building power and building influence in Washington, D.C. with these judges. This led him to be known, like you said, as a judicial kingmaker. So everybody really should go back and read this article to get some of the background on some of these people. Peter Thiel, I think,
I have a whole series on Peter. Like, I have a 3-part case file series on Peter himself.
Yep, and he's been documented quite a bit. Whitney Webb has talked about Peter Thiel and Palantir and the PayPal mafia and everywhere that he came out of, the friendship and partnership with Elon Musk, and Pierre Omidyar, who was kind of the kingmaker for progressives and independents until he really ripped the mask off for the last 5 years. But we all thought he was on our side for years. He would fund Glenn Greenwald, and he funded The Intercept, and he was funding adversarial journalism, and the Snowden archives were housed, and we thought we had one of these billionaires kind of on our side, and we realized not really. Now, some of us, there was already people that were screaming the alarm in 2017, 18, 19. A lot of us weren't paying attention. I certainly wasn't. I started figuring this out. Whitney Webb started laying some of this out when it came to Epstein as well. There's a lot of connections from Thiel to Epstein. But Palantir is frightening because Palantir was a CIA offshoot. All right. It was their idea
Yeah, it was started by InQtel.
Right. But before that, it was actually a DARPA program. All right. That they were trying to achieve what they called total information awareness. So this is a story that Whitney Webb tells to go through the history. And I put together a little graphic. I don't have it up and handy right now, but it kind of shows what the relationship is between Thiel and John Poindexter and Alan Wade, who was the CIA's chief information officer, right? So they had this software called Promise, which they merged with Total Information Awareness and spun it off into a private company called Palantir. Why? Because they thought it would be better to serve that as a private company that didn't have congressional oversight, unlike a DARPA or military or CIA funded program.
I mean, that's kind of what they've been doing with a lot of this stuff, though. Privatization means that there's no oversight from the government. So that doesn't surprise me.
Well, and that we saw that happening in with the Hamilton 68 database. I don't know if you're familiar with all of that. That was used to kind of Russia smear.
I'm still kind of a baby to stuff, so there's still stuff that I'm not educated on. But
Hamilton 68 was a program that was started with NED, USAID, CIA style funding behind the scenes, government funding to smoke out and identify potential Russian accounts. And they created a database, which a lot of the major news outlets used. And then
I know what this is. I looked into this. I remember this now. Yes. Yeah, sorry. I remember Kelly Lane was the one who had sent that to me. Yeah.
Yes. No. So if you ended up on this list and smeared, like it meant that the corporate media basically couldn't touch you, or they were going to get in trouble or what. Like it, very weird. And it was all done around the Russian proxy war that came up, and it came out of the 2020 election initially because of they accused the Russian interference with the Hunter Biden laptop, which we know was not. He left the laptop at the thing, and Rudy Giuliani did really get handed that laptop from the owner, and it ended up in the FBI's hands, and they had it 11 months before it ever ended up, publicly known. But the FBI and the Aspen something Institute held a tabletop exercise 90 days before the election to warn them and came out what would happen if it just so happened that a laptop came out and had all kinds of incriminating evidence about the president's son. What would you do? And they literally gamed it out and had like a war game on that 90 days before. And then the Hunter Biden laptop came out and said, oh, no, it's bullshit. They stopped it from getting sent out and disseminated through DMs even. The New York Post story got blocked with DMs. It was a crazy thing that happened in 2020. And a lot of people just kind of blow that off. it ended up that Glenn Greenwald ended up leaving The Intercept because of the Hunter Biden laptop story, where he had receipts that showed that it was legit and real, but The Intercept would not let him print it, would not allow him to even publish it with a counter article side by side saying that, no, it's not bullshit, and here's why. He literally left and went and published it on his own and started Substack.
That's sad, and that's one of the reasons why I have such an issue with a lot of corporate media.
And again, that's The Intercept. That's perceived to be independent media.
Yeah, like that's, but still, is it really independent? But no, that's sad, because Intercept is actually one of, like, I didn't know about that, and Intercept is one of the places that I like to read. So that's good information to know, because now I'm kind of like,
yeah, you got to take it with a grain of salt. And then here, I got another piece of news for you. Last year, and I reported on this, The Intercept was failing and going out of business because they changed their payment structure and how they funded. Omidyar stopped giving all this donor money to basically fund the $25 million a year that it cost. They were trying to shift to a donor funded model. So he cut back a lot. Thing was running into the ground, and the people that started running it at that point were Ryan Grimm and Jeremy Scahill. They took over operations. Within 6 months, they were basically done, and they walked across the street and founded Dropsite News on Substack. And Dropsite has done some pretty good reporting, but it's all been done with scoops that seem to have been very similarly aligned to the scoops that were being handed to them when they were at The Intercept. Actually, maybe even more than there were when they were over there. It's kind of weird. I have been screaming about this, and most people have not really been paying close attention to it, but this was all funded by Pierre Omidyar, and this is still influenced and impacted by Pierre Omidyar. And oh yeah, by the way, Dropsite announced that they had funding principally from The Intercept. Partnership
so
funding.
Intercept Light.
They basically moved The Intercept to Substack and rebranded with an Uber Eats logo. That's the way that I call it. They're Uber Eats of the news.
You know what's crazy is I think they're number one in like world news too, because I'm up there, like I'm on that list like of Rising or whatever, and I'm pretty sure they're number one.
Yeah, they're up there. They're up there a lot. Again, that's what happens with certain kinds of operations that have connections at Langley. They end up quite well funded and fed scoops. Now, the thing that I worry about with those guys is that sometimes they're fed kind of false flag scoops or nonsense propaganda that didn't really happen in order to push a narrative and have certain people feeling a certain way at a certain time that was advantageous to the people pushing that to them. And they repeat a lot of that stuff unquestioningly and treat it as scoops, breaking news. And I have a big issue with some of that happening. And Peter Thiel has been also involved in funding a lot of news and propaganda and what they call the mainstream alternative media, which I think you've talked about in some of your articles. No?
Maybe. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't think so, but I could have.
So he's got Aspen Institute. Oh, you got Yarvin in there.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I tend to do a lot of deep dives, and unfortunately, because I have ADHD, I can get very distracted, and I can tell you 1 minute the whole backstory on something, and then something else will catch my attention, unfortunately. And with that, I kind of get very forgetful. So I may have. I can't say for sure that I have or I haven't. But like my big stories, like my immigration stuff and the stuff with the Cobb, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes, I can remember like verbatim, but everything I write on, not necessarily.
The Claremont Institute. So he funds think tanks. Claremont writers help justify January 6th insurrection. Yeah. Again, I still have questions. I think it was a riot. I think it was orchestrated. I think they understaffed the Capitol cops on purpose because they knew it was happening. They told the staffers to stay home that day. There were a lot of things there's a lot of questions about what happened on that day. And there was anticipation, I think, in a lot of cases about what was going to happen. And it got out of control, for sure. 99% of the people that were there that got indicted did not do anything necessarily wrong other than stand outside and yell. People that never entered the building got charged. And I thought that was completely wrong. and they
the one's got any charges now.
They used the data from the social media apps that they were using in order to pinpoint and target them. And they shut down, which one was it? It wasn't Getter, it was Parler. Parler was hosted on Amazon servers. Now, the reason why I'm going into this is because Peter Thiel then decided that he wasn't going to allow for that to ever happen again. That there were never going to be Amazon servers that they could scrape and shut down whatever dissent he wanted to make sure was going out there. So he invested in Rumble. That was 2020. Now, allegedly, according to the CEO, and I've had direct messages from the CEO that tells me that he has not been involved with this company since 2021. He doesn't need to be. Because he put a flunky in place, a flunky by the name of J.D. Vance, who you report on quite a bit. J.D. Vance is also a major...
They were from the same... So.
J.D. Vance is a major shareholder in Rumble. Early investor.
I've heard that. I've actually read... I didn't write about that, but I read about that some time ago.
Vivek Ramaswamy, also major early stage investor in Rumble.
Which, for people who don't know, that's the other side of Doge. It's the other half of Doge.
What, Rumble?
No.
Vivek. Oh, Vivek. Well, not sort of. I mean, he wanted to be. They didn't let him be. There was Sweaty Pete. I call him Sweaty Pete. That was his New York Times interview where he said that it wasn't even like people shouldn't even be allowed to survive. But yeah, but big Federalist Society member. So you kind of connect the dots between Leonard Leo and Peter Thiel, which I also found interesting because I haven't really seen anybody else connect that angle yet. Heritage to Thiel. All right. Leonard Leo and Peter Thiel didn't build the Heritage Foundation. They just knew how to manipulate it. And then you get into the history of the Heritage Foundation and Russell Vogt, who is the architect of Project 2025, right? Right. And
this is something that I've wrote on, but this is one of my more, I don't want to say minor articles, but it's something that I kind of just write about ever so often. I'm not completely educated on all of the nuances, but the more I find, the more disgusted I am.
It's bad. Yeah. The 1776 Commission to End Racial Indoctrination in K-12 schools. We covered something about that a couple of years ago on How Do We Miss That? They hired a consultant in Pennsylvania to push this agenda, and he was completely like paid off by an organization and had no qualifications outside of being paid off. It was wild. All right. Leonard Leo didn't draft the plan, like you said. He built the legal infrastructure that lets it live and funds it. And Thiel didn't write the blueprint. He supplies the hardware. And now he supplies the operating system. Multiple operating systems. So, so you connect the dots there. So definitely everybody should also go and read a lot more of that article than I covered, because there's a lot more that I didn't talk about. And then, and again,
that's why I haven't wrote on it quite as much as I would like to, because I feel like the capacity that it's going to like mentally cost me, and the fact that it's going to take so long, there's a lot to it.
There is a lot. And again, I would recommend reading Whitney Webb, Unlimited Hangout. She wrote two books, a 2-part book called One Nation Under Blackmail that's over 1,000 pages between them, that puts a lot of the history and lays out a lot of the connections. Like, how is Jamie Dimon now the CEO of Chase, JP Morgan Chase, right? He was the Bank One CEO, and he had connections to this, and he was involved in this. And it's just really interesting how she kind of follows the timelines and goes back to show what the connections are with Les Wexner and B'nai B'rith and all of like the really, the Zionist organizations in the 60s and 70s, and how they set a lot of the stages. Just fascinating stuff. So recommend checking that out. You also talk about the election integrity campaign. Now, I haven't heard anything about this, but You said that there's a multi-front campaign to gather state election data?
Yeah,
So-
it's the Washington Post initially reported on it, so that's probably why you didn't hear about it. But essentially, yeah, they're trying to basically look at these voting machines and get this voter roll data from several states. But of course, I think what was interesting is the way that the Washington Post prefaces it. Which, by the way, if people don't know, Washington Post is owned by Bezos, which
Right.
was at Trump's inauguration. But the way that they phrased it was like they immediately brought up the 2020 Stop the Steal movement. Like it was like this was almost like immediately feels like to discredit the look into election integrity. They're trying to affiliate it with that movement because people think that it's a movement of delusion. And because of that, like they immediately list that in that article so that people will immediately just kind of assume anyone that's questioning voter integrity will shut it out, which is interesting because it comes weeks after I started to question the machines.
Yeah, and some of us again have been questioning the machines for years.
Yeah, but it just recently went viral again. Was kind of my thing. Like it's interesting.
Oh no, you
the time.
definitely no, and I'm glad that it did. Again, Newsweek picked something up in your thing, and then you looked into the EAC, and you looked into this guy Jack Cobb, and the entire kind of verification, certification to changes that are made to the voting software, and started to peel back the layers of the onion there, and how it's designed so that nobody can really penetrate it. That there are only a few hand-picked people that can even certify the things to begin with. And some of those are even, the certification ran out. I mean, the stuff I read Sunday night, I could not believe that they retroactively put an unsigned, undated document on a website and claimed that was retroactively justification.
Then they changed it to where, oh, well, actually, we know that all the certifications have expiration dates, but they don't actually expire. That was their next thing. After
Right
they got
now,
caught
yeah,
out for that.
only if we say that that there's a problem. Now they just automatically renew in perpetuity. Wait, what?
Right, like they changed it just to cover their own asses, is what they did. But in doing so, they also covered Cobb's ass, which shows me that they've been in cahoots for God knows how long.
Right? It's frightening. Again, poisoning the narrative. They're trying to both sides the issue almost, in my mind. You know, I don't even know how to properly describe. And again, it's not just MAGA. The Democrats have been pulling a stop the steal on their side too.
But that's the thing. Like if they do this and they make it like a lot of people associate it with MAGA, but that's not the only people know. But the point is, like, if you make it look like questioning voter integrity is questioning if there's actual election integrity is makes you insane, then like if you make that what people think, it doesn't matter what side you're on, anyone that questions it is going to be seen as crazy.
QAnon. Literally QAnon. Yeah. All right.
I can call BlueAnon.
BlueAnon? Well, BlueAnon's a whole different thing. BlueAnon are the people that believe Russiagate and all kinds of Democratic narrative nonsense.
It was them trying to make fun of the QAnon thing. They don't know who that actually is. Like they just made it up. Like it was an insult from like a content creator on TikTok. It's someone that doesn't know any of this stuff. It was just their version of calling me crazy. They also call us blue Lulus. That was another thing.
Okay. Well, again, you have this lady, this so-called Election Integrity Commission, collapsed in disgrace, who sat on it. Christy McCormick, who sits on the EAC. How is that? Despite having an expired term, why doesn't Trump appoint? Is it presidentially appointed? How does the EAC even happen again?
So it's my understanding that the Senate gives like a selection to the president, and then the president either agrees or disagrees. I may have it backwards, and maybe the president gives them to the Senate. I know that different ones do different things, but essentially it's like the GOP and the president have to work together to pick a person, and until they do, she gets to stay in that spot indefinitely. Her term expired like 2 years ago.
So basically, they can appoint a new one whenever they want, and she just gets replaced.
Yeah, but they haven't done it yet. But she's really fucking sketchy. Her and that guy Donald Palmer, they are both very heavily linked to the MAGA network. As well as like she signed off on like there being forensic clones of our machines. Like she had signed off her name as part of like because they were going to do like this press release from Cyber Ninjas about it, and then she had added her name to try to like make it credible. But then they had retroactively like changed, like they pretty much changed it, and it never came out. But she signed her name on it. Like she got caught, and she's went on multiple like alt-right podcasts, and she's very much not nonpartisan. I mean, not nonpartisan. I mean, obviously it's partisan because that's the way the Hobb Act set up the EAC. But she's not. She very much aligns only with her political party. She's not aligning with the American people's interests like she should be.
So again, like you said here, over the past several months, you already documented that the election system in the U.S. is already compromised, and it's not by Russia, it's not by any foreign entity, all right, but by a closed-loop network of private voting machine vendors, federal agencies, and politically connected insiders. They don't need a foreign country to rig this stuff. It's already being rigged.
No, yeah, because our elections are ran by corporate interests. Like it's literally a fucking private company that gets paid by other private companies to certify our machines.
It's wild. It's wild.
It's literally, I don't know, frustrating.
You're talking about Pro V&V here, which is Cobb's lab that he started after he was already kicked out of another lab, Cyber, and he'd been working for several of these things basically since the machines were introduced in the early 2000s. And how this guy got juiced in there and managed to stay in there for 20 plus years while never certifying a machine that wasn't provided, where he didn't have the test software provided by the same company he was supposed to be certifying. Like what?
Yeah, like he essentially has pretty much signed off on whatever the people that make the voting machines say is okay. Like if they say, "Oh, it's cool, don't worry about it," then he certifies it. And it's so wild to me because you would think like the EAC exists to try to be like that, third party to prevent this kind of thing from happening, like just him signing off on another corporate interest. But the EAC is being sued for doing the same shit. They let the people, like a lot of the bigwigs from these corporations come in before the VSSG 3.0, the voting guidelines, the newest voting rules, before they were written. They let the people from these vendor machines companies come in and help. Yeah, which is crazy because that's why Cyber lost its accreditation, and it's something that Jack Cobb is still doing to this day. Like he admitted that he in the Dominion suit in 2020. What was it? Was it the Raffensperger lawsuit?
Yeah.
Cobb was called to testify, and he admitted under legal. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the words. I'm getting tongue-tied. He admitted under oath that they did not decide whether a change was de minimis or not. That the companies, Dominion, told him if a change was de minimis or not, and he signed off on it.
Rubber
he said
stamp.
that it came from the voting machines, like the voting machine vendors. So it's like he literally agreed with whatever they said. So because if they said it was anything but de minimis, they would have to pay him to do further testing. And whatever he says is what the EAC listens to. They don't actually do any independent testing of their own. A lot of people don't realize that, they don't check his work. They just say, okay, and sign off on it. But he's been proven to be lying in court. He lied under oath in court about a certain cybersecurity thing. And he actually has no cybersecurity background. He's been caught lying multiple times in court, never faced any repercussions, and he's still certifying our voting machines. And the people that fucking are supposed to be holding him accountable just sign off with him. And they even went as far as retroactively changing shit to cover his ass. It's all corrupted.
Well, they also want to make sure that the people that are in power now don't want to learn that an ES&S machine that he had certified was actually responsible for their victory. This is what I've been saying since 2016. You're going to have a hard time ever getting consensus on the machines because nobody's going to want to learn that they lost a race that they actually won because the machines were rigged or in question, and then have to have a revote and put that potential power seat that they already have on the line. They're just...
Yep, and that's exactly how it's been. It's like 1 year it's this party, 1 year it's this party, but they're never going to work collectively because they don't want to be taken out of power.
They just ping pong it, and they make sure that between the revolving door, that as long as it's a Republican or a Democrat, that system is basically going to stay in place. And that's one of the reasons why they don't want a third party to come in and look at all of this software and how they decide where on the ballot or where on the digital ballot, which line people are placed on, for example. I mean, all of that has psychological impact on how people vote. If you're in line 7 or in line 1, tends to get more votes when you're in line 1, or column 1, and the different columns that they have in the vote, on these voting screens. There have also been accusations of touchscreen vote flipping, like in Texas, where candidate wants to vote, the people want to vote for Republicans, some Republicans and some Democrats, but at the end it voted them all Republican or all Democrat.
I mean, there's concerns with a lot of the machines. I mean, if you just look at like the Express Vote XL, it's like literally an all-in-one ballot counter. Like, it's a tabulator, and you also place your vote on it, and it uses a QR code. So that's like a big thing too. Like, you can't tell what these machines, what the QR code actually says. And that was one of the things he got in trouble for, because he was like, oh, it's encrypted, and then, oh, it's not encrypted. He couldn't actually answer. He didn't actually know. He just was going based off of what Dominion said.
What they told him.
That was one. And that was one of the big things, is like, there's so many different machines, and every single, locality uses a different machine, right? And every single machine has its different vulnerabilities. And it's like, if there's so many different fuck ups that he certified, then there's no telling what's actually legit and what's not.
And then there's the big one, which is the ECO 1188, that change order that he signed off on for 2024 as de minimis. Now, this is all also important. I've been saying this again, proprietary code that can't be audited. How is that even allowed, that something for the public good can be private and not open source for a privately held for-profit corporation?
Yeah, like in many states, and it's been reaffirmed time and time again, cast vote records, which are like these voter, like they essentially show what counties voted this, etc. Like, it's really the audited data for these elections. You're not allowed to see them. In court cases over and over again, they signed off and said basically like, oh, well, it's got, it's proprietary to the vendor companies. And that's insane to me how this is considered proprietary. And courts have agreed over and over again. And I think that's one of the big things people need to push for. Like, if you're going to push for anything with election integrity, cast vote records need to be public information, period, point blank. Like, there should be no, oh, it's proprietary. This is our elections. This isn't the fucking, secret sauce at Burger King. This is our elections.
You're saying cast vote, like knowing publicly who everybody voted for? Cast vote?
So no. CVRs, they don't show who voted for who. Like, that would be redacted. It just shows like localities. Like, it shows you the raw data, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
And those are not public information. It's considered proprietary, along with the source code for.
That's insane. Again, and that's the system that we have somehow has been thrust upon us. But the big thing here again is that this guy, Jack, certified a change to the configuration file that ignored a check to make sure they were even using the right software, the right version, and then signed off on saying that it was okay. Again, I read through this on Sunday night's show, so I'm pretty up to speed on what you had written here, and it's shocking. It's frustrating and angering that all of this could slide through and that nobody else seems to really care that much about it. Like some people do, but what are we doing about it?
That's what I'm just going to keep talking about it. I'm just going to keep hammering at it, and hopefully something comes of it. I've got another article that I'm going to be working on. I went into financial records for Cobb, including his mortgages, his marriage, his divorce, everything. And I have a lot of just data about the corporate structure of Pro B&B and all of the things he's done financially that are very, very sketchy. And it just kind of shows me, like, a lot of people don't know this, like Pro B&B, it's privately traded and it was founded by an angel funder. Like, we don't know who actually paid for it to exist. But what we do know is that Jack Cobb bought the building that Pro B&B is housed in Cummings Research Park for $2.45 million in 2019, just 2 years after he changed the articles of incorporation to be corporately rebranded to benefit preferred shareholders. It's a whole thing. I'll explain it in less jargon terms in my article, but there's more to it.
And yeah, and not only that, I saw that there were other Pro V&Vs set up in other states but are no longer active companies.
Yeah, and 3 of them are like actually linked to Cobb through a registered agent called, I think it was InfoCorp or some. I have it written down. But then there's one that I thought was really weird. It was in Colorado, which was not linked to Cobb. And the business that it was, like, the location of the business was like in this like industrial complex. And the business was also registered to like a gardening thing, a construction thing. Like there were like 4 or 5 shell businesses associated with this specific address that this Pro B&B Incorporated was. And when you link back to who owns what, it's just shell company leading to shell company leading to shell company, which was really weird to me. And then Cobb actually just bought another LLC, like another company, July 2nd, called Pro B&B Services or something, Incorporated or LLC or something like that. And I'm just wondering if this is his exit plan.
And again, all of this is being done with our election certification software, or not even software, the people who certify our elections. I don't quite understand what the lab that he owns does other than rubber stamp what's handed to him by ES&S, Dominion, and Smart Elections.
Not Smart Elections. Smart Elections is the
not Smart.
That is the name.
The third vendor that I'm thinking of.
It's I can't remember the name by heart, but it's mostly Dominion and ES&S. Don't come for me. They'll try to sue me.
They'll try to sue
Dominion.
anybody that talks about them. The minute you mention their name, but they put their names on those machines.
They got taken over by private equity in 2019, and then that's why they sued the fuck out of Fox, because that private equity had a lot of money to make from it.
And more importantly, it was to silence anybody else from challenging or talking about it going forward because of the risk of a massive $1 billion lawsuit, which Fox ended up settling for, I think, $800 million or some silly number.
I mean, I guess if they're going to sue anyone and make a example out of anyone, Fox would be the one.
Well, it's only half the problem, but sure. I mean, I would have liked to have seen as much come out of. No, I get it. Rupert Murdoch and those guys.
But that, like, if they were going to try to make an example out of anyone, it would be Fox because they're so big, not because of how they're politically aligned.
Sure. All right. So then there was the EAC thing. I think you talked a little bit about, like, kind of how weird this is, how they just get appointed and they just stay there even though they expire until there's a new one appointed, which is strange. Why wouldn't they push a new one? And here you go. The EAC is corrupt. So how is the EAC corrupt?
How are they not? I mean, they literally let the vendors come in and make the rules. They've proactively retroactively certified Pro B&V, despite their expiration, their certification being expired. They've used, like, their positions at the EAC to try to earn them money, like, through signing off or agreeing to things that aren't necessarily true. Like, they're very much corrupt.
Right. So again, you've got Christy McCormick and Donald Palmer. Now, they're not the only two on the commission, right? They're just
No,
two of
and
the
I
members?
listed the names of the other ones up there, but I've done a deep dive on the other two, and I haven't been able to find anything that's like solid, but they are on my list of people to look into. But Christy McCormick and Donald Palmer are such blatant red flags that I just had to like at least talk about them first. But I am looking into the EAC as a whole, because for one thing that really pisses me off is their project director, Mark Robbins, he's sketchy. His history is sketchy. I'm going to go into that in a feature article. But for him to be appointed as program director, he has to be appointed and agreed to by the members of the commission, for the two Dems, the two people from the GOP. And that means one of the two Democrats on there at least signed off on this very corrupted man being placed as project or program director. So that means there's someone that's getting paid or something's happening with the Dems on there too. I just haven't been able to find anything as of now, like on, their records, they look squeaky clean.
Interesting. But like you say here, the lab certifying our machines, Pro V and V, ran without accreditation for years. Its founder, Jack Cobb, has a history of rubber stamping machines for cash back when he worked for Cyber, a lab so corrupt it was shut down. And then when that scandal faded, he just opened up a new shop called Pro V and V and picked up where he left off. And somehow the EAC allowed that. The EAC covered for him. They backdated documents. They lied to the public. They enabled uncertified systems to run our elections. And then when caught, they called it a clerical error and then tried to cover their tracks by placing documents that tried to certify him after the fact.
Yep, and then when people caught on to those documents, that's when they released the thing saying, oh, well, actually, their certification doesn't expire.
And you said that people have sued the EAC already, that there's an active lawsuit right now against them? Is that right?
Yeah, they're being sued right now for letting the vendors come in and write the rules for the machines. But they've also been sued before. I can't remember the exact specifics of it, but for very similar behavior.
Interesting. That's crazy stuff, man. All right. So, wow, that was just about everything I had. I know that there's even more stuff that you cover than that, but that's a lot.
No,
so that's a lot for people to absorb.
Like 2 hours.
So everybody go check out. This is actually like your profile, substack.com/@dissentinbloom. And then they can get to your publication, which is dissentinbloom.substack.com, which has all of the articles and video and podcasts and everything else. I found all those articles in the archive. That was the easiest place for me to find them. You might even want to, and I'll help if you need some help with this, creating some sections in here that help people kind of by subject. Here's the election stuff. Here's the deep dive research. Here's the stuff on immigrant reform, et cetera, to kind of make it easier for them. By using
Soft starting. I haven't officially published them yet, but I've been trying to work on. It's just one of the many things on the list.
Well, TikTok, you're on YouTube, and you started a link tree. So that was the other thing I wanted to bring up here for people to find you on all these different platforms. linktr.ee/dissentinbloom. All of these links will be in the descriptions just about everywhere, except on Substack, because they don't have a description. Thank you, Substack. I'll put it afterwards in the podcast description there, though. Wow, this was a whirlwind. I really appreciate all the time that you're putting into writing this, the energy and passion that you're putting into it, and the knowledge that we're all gaining that we did not have before. So awesome work. Keep it up. I again appreciate you coming on and hanging out with me to talk about it and share it with everybody else. Before we get out of here really quickly, I want to ask people, if you like funding media like this, if you like seeing shows like this, the way to do that, you see, by the way, up on that board, Dissent in Bloom. She's also one of the supporters of INN. Really appreciate that. She's awesome for that. But everybody up there has already done that. So the best ways to do it are Cash App, $ Indie News Network, Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. At the websites, we've got indienewsnow.com. That's our own hosted news site. And then we've got the Substacks, innnewsletter.com, where this is housed going forward, and at indiemediatoday.com. That's my personal newsletter that I publish. How do we miss that? And a bunch of other stuff there as well. Again, this was great, horrifying, educational, and exhausting, but again, a lot of fun, and definitely come back.
I apologize if I get tongue-tied and stuff, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not good on camera.
That happens. You're great. No worries. The work and the writing is phenomenal. You know, you have a lot more time to plan out your thoughts when you're writing, and it's tougher to be on camera and be on like this and on the spot and have your stuff
I don't
down.
know if I'm actually like blushing because I'm like, oh my gosh, I sound like I'm talking nonsense.
Oh no, this was great, and we will have to do this again real soon, but we'll be back with another INN one-on-one, I'm sure, very shortly. Check out all the other shows on INN. You can follow us at indienews.network. You can see all the links down in the scrolling ticker below or in the description wherever you are. So again, this is Indie. This is Dissent in Bloom. This was INN one-on-one, episode 2 from our series, hopefully going forward. So we'll see you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here away. The cost of living isn't much to me, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe?
Who are these people?